Dez Bryant and Ezekiel Elliott and Dak Prescott.
Which I think the Giants' pass rush will do.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're good at, this pass rush, along with the offense. Here's my question, though. Sean Lee, I think he's going to attack the left side of the line. So you're going to see a lot of quick passes coming out of Eli's hands for sure. A lot of quick, short route passes.
There's also the question of the offensive line. The Giants did not do much to improve that offensive line at all. So this is where Eli's safety is going to be coming into question. And there's also the issue of the running game. Last year, the running game was, well, to say that it was mediocre would be putting it bluntly. There were times when we wondered, where are the running backs? Now they've got Paul Perkins to probably carry the majority of the load, so to speak. And they also drafted this kid out of Clemson last year,
Wayne Gallman.
Yeah, Wayne Gallman to probably spell him. So look for those two to maybe share the load this season.
If I had to pick who's going to win this game, I'm going to go very close by 3 points field goal. I'm going with the Giants to win.
That's a pretty bold pick when you think about it. As far as who wins this game, the Giants have had major problems with athletic quarterbacks in the past. Guys who can make plays with their feet in addition to making the big throw. I hate to say this, but this could be the moment where Dak Prescott really has his coming out party in his second season. That's another thing. Dak Prescott and Zeke Elliott are in their second season. Sophomore jinx, anyone?
Nah.
We're going to have to wait and see.
That's for sure. They still got one of the best offensive lines with Travis Frederick, Tyra. Yeah.
That's another thing. Dak Prescott was as good as his offensive line last year, and they were rock solid. And their problem was they could not play defense to save their lives. Notice the Green Bay game in the playoffs.
But also the Cowboys lost a lot of members of their secondary and defense. And right there, Eli's going to take advantage too. So I'm still going to go with the Giants. Now the next game right here in the neighborhood, we got the Jets going up to what I still call the Ralph, not New Era, the Ralph, against the Buffalo Bills.
This is me caring.
As you can see, my partner and esteemed co-host is saying right here, this 114th regular season meeting is crap. It's fool's gold. It's terrible. It's a utter joke because these are two teams that are rebuilding. You have a new head coach in Sean McDermott who came from the Carolina Panthers, trying to anchor a Bills team that has yet to hasn't made a postseason since the Miracle in Music City in '99 when they lost to the Titans. While the Jets haven't been to the playoffs since the 2010 AFC Championship game.
Well, it looks like it's going to be 7 years and counting without a playoff game for the Jets because this year's squad, I don't even think you can call it a rebuilding process. This was a complete and utter fire sale that they did during the offseason. No Brandon Marshall.
Eric Decker.
No Eric Decker. No nothing.
Nick Mangold was let go.
Nick Mangold was unceremoniously let go. David Harris was let go. They're basically going with a whole bunch of young players right now, except Josh McCown. And that's another thing.
Oh, Sheldon Richardson, they just traded to Seattle to get Jermaine Kearse, which I honestly think was one of the best moves.
That was actually a good idea because not only did Sheldon Richardson not produce on the line last year, he's also a blubbering idiot for all of the trouble that he's caused off the field. But that's beside the story. Getting Jermaine Kearse to be someone resembling a number one receiver was a really critical move for them because, quite frankly, who else is the quarterback going to be able to throw to?
Robbie Anderson. They got Ardarius Stewart, who
and they also signed Jeremy Curley.
Which, you know what, he welcoming him back from after him being cut by the 49ers. They do have some weapons, but there also are talks about Matt Forte being on the trading block.
Yeah, he's been rumored to be on the block for quite a while now. But now, as of this moment, Forte and also Bilal Powell, it looks like they're going to have to get the load of the carries. If the Jets are going to do anything even remotely interesting this season, they have to run the ball. They cannot trust any of their quarterbacks to do anything.
And they will definitely run the ball against this defense, with the exception of a few players on that defense. It's fool's gold. Sean McDermott is working with a terrible defense that doesn't have Stephon Gilmore anymore, went to New England. They just traded away Ronald Darby to Philadelphia to get Jordan Matthews, who may not even be 100%. The fact that they made the deal to let Sammy Watkins go to the LA Rams to get E.J. Gaines, who probably is their number one viable cornerback. Other than that, that secondary is ripe for Josh McCown to take advantage of this week. But you know what? The Bills are going to – Tyrod Taylor is going to try and take advantage of that Jets D-line, but he won't. He's going to have a tough time, so that's why I'm going
Tyrod
with the
Taylor
Jets.
is a mediocre quarterback. Do not kid yourselves. The kid is fool's gold. Quite frankly, the Jets should be able to handle a kid like Tyrod Taylor. But as far as who wins this game, it's going to be which defense is going to come up with the biggest play. And in this case, the Jets have probably the best single defensive player on their line, Leonard Williams. But I think the Bills have the more collective unit. That's why I like Buffalo in this game.
Here we go. Lambeau Field, Seahawks, Packers. Probably
Second best game of the day by far.
I love this matchup. They've had some memorable ones. How about the Fail Mary? Anybody? The playoff game last year. They've had some classic battles against each other. And you have two classic Titans at quarterback in Russell Wilson and, of course, Aaron Rodgers right there. Aaron Rodgers probably one of the best. He has one of the best pass ratings in the NFL in the last 5 years in counting. And on top of that, he's got good weapons in Jordy Nelson and Devontae Adams, while Seattle has some good offensive weapons too in Doug Baldwin. But I'll be honest, the running back situation, the revenge storyline, Eddie Lacy is now a Seattle Seahawks running back. He's going to want to get one over his old team for sure.
At the same time, the Seahawks probably made the most important addition to their defense right now, and that's getting Sheldon Richardson. It's critical that they get Richardson on the field. Maybe a change of scenery can be the right thing for him, especially after he stunk it up last year, getting only 3.5 sacks for the entire season.
And what about the battle of the Bennetts? Martellus Bennett, the newly acquired tight end for the Green Bay Packers, against his big brother, Michael Bennett.
That's going to be really interesting to watch, seeing those two go at it on the field like that.
And considering what Michael just recently went through, from what I understand, Martellus said he's going to be pretty emotional, hugging his brother.
Those two. If you saw the story that NFL Films did about them not too long ago, this is about as close a pair of brothers as you will ever find. There was even a story in which Michael Bennett talked about how he almost passed away from a very serious illness just after he was born. Martellus could not contain his emotions. He almost broke down in tears because he could not imagine what his life would be like without his brother.
That shows you the love that they have for each other, and they're gonna have that for a second before the coin toss. But once the coin toss happens, once the football's kicked off, it's business as usual. And these two are it's gonna be a Titanic, epic showdown. If I had to pick between these two Colossus teams, I'm going with the slight edge to the home team Packers.
Well, as far as who wins this game, in my opinion, the big question could be whose running game is going to be coming out the best. I mean, we know what these quarterbacks can do, and we also know what their respective defenses can do. I personally think that the Seahawks still have the better secondary, but the Packers might have the better overall defense. Too close to call, but I'm still picking Green Bay in this one.
Saints, Vikings, Monday night at the site of Super Bowl 51, U.S. Bank Stadium. Adrian Peterson, former Viking of 11 years, now in the black and gold, visiting his old team. Revenge. Will that dish be served cold that night.
You think this isn't a big deal for Adrian Peterson? He spent 10
10 years.
years playing for the Vikings. For him to be unceremoniously dumped the way he did, especially after a really difficult season that he had last year with his injuries, that's still weighing on his mind. You know that he's going to want to play a big game in this one.
Against the third-ranked defense that gave up 314.9 yards when you got guys like Anthony Barr, Xavier Rhodes, who got a new contract extension, Linval Joseph, the former Giant on the team, and Everson Griffin and Harrison Smith at safety. That is going to be a tough one, but this is no ordinary quarterback you're going up against. You're going up against Drew Brees. Originally, I had the Vikings winning this game, but you know what? I'm switching my pick. I'm going with the New Orleans Saints because when it comes to Drew Brees and Michael Thomas, that's going to be a great tandem to look at on that night. So, and
who's going to be the starting quarterback for the Vikings, though? Is it going to be Sam Bradford?
Yes.
If it's going to be Sam Bradford, then the Vikings are in serious trouble because Sam Bradford is another kid who I call fool's gold. He's had a losing record for his entire career. He's never been in a playoff game. He's had major problems staying healthy. He's had major problems with accuracy, too. In this case, I'm also picking New Orleans.
In the next game, Titans in Music City against the Raiders. Two quarterbacks who were unceremoniously injured on Christmas Eve. Both come back healthy. Who wins this matchup? If I have to pick, it's going to be Marcus Mariota and that Titans team with Corey Davis, newly acquired from the draft, in their offense, and you got guys like Derrick Henry and DeMarco Murray who had over 1,200 yards on the ground, and I love the new acquisition of Eric Decker and the offensive line. If Taylor Lewan can play, he's got a big match against Khalil Mack, who may not also, if he plays as well, Khalil, because he's injured too, like Taylor.
This is a really interesting matchup, a potential Super Bowl contender against a potential playoff contender. In this case, wow. All I can say is wow. I think they're pretty much even behind center, but receiver-wise, the Raiders have the better core of receivers, whereas the Titans have the better running game in my eyes because they've got the better 1-2 punch. I think that the Raiders are much better defensively, much better than people give them credit for. That's why I picked the Raiders in this one.
Eagles, Redskins, another NFC East clash besides Giants-Cowboys taking place this week.
Yeah, the clock is ticking on Kirk Cousins because he is in his walk year. And there's been a lot of
Garcon,
Yep.
no Deshaun Jackson.
Nope.
But they got Terrell Pryor.
Which is a pretty decent pickup as a receiver when you think about it because Terrell Pryor was the Cleveland Browns' best player last year. Now he gets an upgrade in personnel. Still, Kirk Cousins has to have a lot more to work with. He has a pretty decent running game to work with, but when you think about it, I think the Eagles are better offensively, and they're much more underrated defensively than people give them credit for. I like the Eagles in this one.
I want to see the matchup between the tight end Zach Ertz and that linebacking core for the Redskins. You got a tight end Ertz, one of the most underrated tight ends, who's had 70-plus receptions in the last 2 years. Probably one of the best fantasy pickups ever. And then you got Alshon Jeffrey on a one-year prove-it deal and Torrey Smith to go along with Garrett Blount, Wendell Smallwood, and the speedy Darren Sproles. They got more offensive firepower. And the defense, when you think about Michael Kendricks, that's scary right there. And Jim Schwartz is their coordinator. For the Redskins to overcome that, I don't think it's going to happen. I'm going with Carson Wentz and the Eagles. Now, the next game, Cardinals, Lions. Talk about a big contract, historic. This man, that's right, Matthew Stafford, the Lions, got the new highest contract in NFL history with a $50 million signing bonus. And you wonder why. 8 games last year, he led them with fourth quarter come from behind victories, deservingly of this type of cash against a Cardinals defense that is one of the best in the league when you think about it, when you got a guy like Chandler Jones. But really, if you're talking about Cardinals, it's one person who's the fantasy darling of the league, David Johnson.
David Johnson, one of the best running backs in the game. And this is also this also could be the clock ticking on Larry Fitzgerald and Carson Palmer as well. Carson Palmer is now in his 15th overall season. He's also approaching his 38th birthday. There's also Larry Fitzgerald. Some thought that he was going to retire after last year. I didn't believe it because I still thought that he could play. Personnel-wise, I think the Cardinals are a little bit better collectively at quarterback and at running back and at receiver. But I think the Lions might be a little bit more underrated than people think.
Who do you go with?
Common sense tells me to go with the team that's better collectively, offensively. But at the same time, Matthew Stafford is no one to mess with.
I'm going with the Lions.
I like the Lions as well.
Now, in the next game right here, Ravens-Bengals, AFC North clash. Flacco has had not much success against the Bengals in the past.
This is a real statement year for both of those teams. The Bengals missed the playoffs last year. A.J. Green was hurt for most of last year. Now he's 100% healthy. Marvin Lewis has never won a playoff game. If the Bengals don't make the playoffs this year, then Marvin Lewis has to go. As for the Ravens,
they need to know if Joe Flacco is going to be 100% for this year, considering he's had back issues. But what I like about this year, Danny Woodhead and Jeremy Maclin, some new weapons, and I want to see Brashad Perriman have the healthy season that we've been waiting for since he came out of Central Florida. They need to play their best, and with Marshall Yonder and Ronnie Stanley on the offensive line, I think they could. I believe the Ravens for the first time in Cincinnati, they're he's 2-6 Flacco in Cincinnati, make it 3-6. I'm going with the Flacco and the Ravens.
Let's see if Joe Flacco can be 100% for this game, because if not, the Ravens are going to have problems. That's why I'm going to pick Cincinnati in this one.
I don't blame you. It's like an either-or game. Both of them. Falcons, Bears. Falcons coming off that Super Bowl 51 loss when they were up by 25 points at the half and let it slip away. Now they're looking for, this is the redemption tour, and it starts at Soldier Field. Will Matt Ryan and the Falcons, who are going to be christening their new stadium, but not this week, I think week 2 on Monday night, will they be able to take the Bears to task, a Bears team that doesn't have Cutler anymore or Hoyer? Both are actually starting quarterbacks on other teams, but yet they got Mike Glennon and they have
the rookie Mitchell Trubisky. If I'm the Bears, I just look to my future. Make Mitchell Trubisky the starting quarterback. They drafted him for a reason. That's one thing. The other thing is, the Falcons are just better. Better at quarterback, better at running back, better at receiver. Defensively, I couldn't even begin to tell you, because after the self-destruction of Super Bowl 51 and the Bears being so paltry defensively,
but Vic Beasley
I couldn't
is
even
one
begin
of the best.
Vic Beasley is one of the best, but collectively, I think the Falcons might just be better by default defensively. That's why I'm picking the Falcons in this one. Not only that, but the Falcons are just better on each side of the ball.
Watch for Takaris McKinley. He's going to have a great debut for that team. I look for him to have 2 sacks in that game over Glennon. Don't be surprised to see Trubisky play the second half. Now, Panthers, 49ers. The Panthers are returning to the nightmare of Levi Stadium, where they lost Super Bowl 50 to the Broncos. This time, you got the new combination of John Lynch as general manager and new head coach for the 4th straight year in Kyle Shanahan, the man who, by the way, was the offensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons. He's been an offensive coordinator for the Redskins, for the Browns. He's been around the league. This time, he finally has the chance to prove that he is just as good as his old man, Mike Shanahan, at the head coaching position.
Well, we're going to have to see about that. But on the other side, I think the big dog known as Cam Newton is going to be ready to eat. So you better start feeding him. And I think he's going to start feasting on that 49er defense. Some say the Niners are going to be better this year. I just don't see it.
No, they are better defensively. If you look at some of the pieces, especially Thomas, who they got from Stanford University to go in that defensive front 7, he's going to add some oomph and punch. And then, of course, some other really outstanding, and Jimmy Ward, I think he should be ready for the opener, this week as well in the secondary. As for the offense itself, Carlos Hyde is going to be a huge part of the offense for the 49ers.
I think he might be the part of the 49ers offense because consider who their quarterback rotation is. From what I understand, isn't Brian Hoyer in that quarterback rotation?
He's their starter.
He's their starting quarterback.
And C.J. Beathard, who they got in the draft and all that, he's the second string right now. So this could be, this could be a contentious year. We might see a quarterback controversy, but this is the first year of the rebuilding project. John Lynch actually made some good moves. We're going to see this play out. I think the 49ers are going to actually have a future ahead of them, but not this year. As for the Panthers, the off-season shoulder surgery that Cam Newton had, I think we're going to see that 100% fully healed. He's got Kelvin Benjamin, he's got Greg Olsen, and he's got Christian McCaffrey, who, by the way, played at Stanford, which won't be no more than a few hours away from San Francisco. So I see the Carolina Panthers actually winning. So I went with the 49ers, but I'm making my switch. Now, Jaguars-Texans. For the people of Houston, my heart and my prayers, my thoughts are with you. And and J.J. Watt, what a gentleman for what he's done for that city. A modest $250,000 goal has turned into a $29 million dream of hope for the people in that area. He is a consummate professional in every sense of the word and a gentleman for what he's done. And I applaud this guy, for what he's done. And other players should look to him as an example. From the day when he had to be a pizza boy to get to pay for his college tuition, to getting to the NFL, to working hard and being one of the best pass rushers in the league. He is a gentleman. He's a professional. He's a great athlete, and I cannot wait to see him back in the field.
And to think, he never even got so much as one single scholarship offer. His home state school, the University of Wisconsin, was the only one to give him a chance, and look where he is now.
And he's going to be feasting on Blake Bortles. Let me tell you, I feel bad for the people of Jacksonville that they have to witness him at quarterback or Chad Henne. So that's why I said earlier, do not be shocked to see Colin Kaepernick signed by the Jaguars sometime this year.
And where the Jaguars are going through the ignominy of Blake Bortles, Chad Henne, the Houston Texans are looking to a new era at quarterback. Deshaun Watson, a kid who I think...
He won't be starting, though. It's Tom Savage who's the starter.
Yeah, I really don't know why Tom Savage is being made the starter, especially considering that his skill set is just not that great at all. But I guess they want to work Watson in a little slowly. When you think about it, this has the makings of a 10-3, 13-6 type game, only in favor of the Texans because they're just a better all-around team.
Here's the thing, though. Even though that being the case, however, that's why the Jaguars are going to be running the ball a lot with Leonard Fournette, and that is the reason why they're going to kill the clock. The new acquisition, Calais Campbell, is going to really get into the backfield of Tom Savage. I really think, and this is crazy for me, folks, to say this, I'm going Jacksonville this week. I know. It's nuts.
I'll tell you right now, the Jaguars are not beating the Texans. That is a guarantee. In fact, I'm making that my lock of the week.
All right. Chargers, the L.A. Chargers against the Denver Broncos. First time ever, two African-American head coaches make their inaugural debuts against each other on a Monday night game.
And this is also the Chargers' first game as the Los Angeles Chargers since 1960, which was their debut season in the old American Football League. I'm still trying to come to grips with them being the Los Angeles Chargers. I feel so bad for the people of San Diego, a city whose football fans were really, really good and really, really faithful to that franchise. And what happens? The Spanos family decides to stab them in the back, all for the sake of a better stadium deal in Los Angeles.
I'll tell you, though, in this particular game, Vance Joseph being the new head coach of the Broncos, Anthony Lynn for the Chargers, they're going to have a lot of positives and a lot of negatives on their side. The positive, though, for the Chargers, you think about Joey Bosa right there on that defense.
And also the fact that Phillip Rivers is still the quarterback and still great at what he does.
Exactly. Losing Forrest Lamp to an ACL doesn't help because You got to realize that Philip Rivers has been sacked over 30-plus times in the last 2 years.
Amazing.
And yet he's still able to play the game and still able to go week after week. He's a soldier for sure for that team. But the Broncos are going to be too much, despite the fact that Ward is not in that defense anymore, which really makes no sense why they let him go. That was a personality clash right then and there.
Yeah, and T.J. Ward took to the media to air his grievances about why he wound up getting released. Good thing that the Buccaneers picked him up because they're going to get themselves a really good defensive player.
I know. In this game, though, I'm going with the Broncos to win just for Trevor Siemian, and we're going to see him and Demaryius Thomas really take advantage of that
I want to say the Broncos, too, but I don't know. Trevor Siemian, and I'm just a little perturbed about Trevor Siemian as their starting quarterback. And also, guess who they decided to bring back? They brought back Brock Osweiler.
Yikes.
Exactly.
Now, Colts, Rams, Colts, sans Andrew Luck because of the offseason shoulder injury or surgery that he had, hasn't yet to play, didn't play a single down at all in preseason, hasn't gone to a training camp, so there's no way he's going to be able to start this week. So that's why they actually just traded with the Patriots
to get Jacoby Brissett, which I thought was a very shrewd move by the Colts.
But it's going to be Scott Tolzien for the first week since he's familiar with the offense. This is a guy who's had no win whatsoever in his NFL career in 3 starts. Was it 2 touchdowns and a few interceptions? It's just it's despicable to see him on the field, but at the same time, this is what they got. Thank goodness they got T.Y. Hilton and Joseph Dye, but the problem with T.Y. Hilton, who led the league last year for over 1,400 receiving yards, he doesn't have a good receiver to throw to him. Mm-hmm. So they're going to have to rely heavily on Frank Gore, who last year became the first 1,000-yard rusher since Joseph Dye in 2007. Mm-hmm. Still will not make a difference. I think the Rams, with Goff and some of the other weapons, including Cooper Kupp, we're going to see him having a coming-out party. So I go with the Rams, even though Aaron Donald held out.
That's 50-50 for me because not only is the Colts' backup quarterback rotation questionable, Jared Goff came off a totally disappointing rookie season. Draw your own conclusions.
Definitely. Steelers, Browns, AFC North, another AFC North rivalry matchup. We got Ben Roethlisberger, Big Ben, 20-2 all-time against the Cleveland Browns, 10-1 in the state in Cleveland.
Well, he's going to be 21-2 because I think the Browns are going to squash because I think the Steelers are going to squash the Browns this weekend. At least the Browns have a little bit of hope for their future in Myles Garrett and DeShone Kizer, who's starting at quarterback, and Jabril Peppers, who's going to be starting in the secondary. That's a good trio to build with for the future.
Unfortunately, Garrett, though, has a leg injury, so he's going to be out a few weeks. He won't be making his NFL debut this week. But DeShone Kizer, come on, considering you had Osweiler, Kevin Hogan, and Cody Kessler, it was definitely not many options to go with. So at the end of the day, DeShone Kizer, let's hope he becomes the quarterback that we all think he can be from Notre Dame. And David Njoku, I think he's going to be the best tight end they've had in years. Mm-hmm. Defensively, too, it's going to improve. And they let Joe Hayden go, and guess what? He got picked up by the Steelers.
Yep.
That's going to be crazy. Already a reunion that's not going to be great for either team. I'm going with the Steelers, of course. You know, Le'Veon Bell finally ended his holdout because he is deserving of a long-term deal. Mm-hmm. Now, the only game that's not taking place is Buccaneers, Dolphins, and the reason why, the impending storm of Hurricane Irma. And from all of us at CTV, from me and Jamie, our hearts, our thoughts, and prayers are with the people of South Florida right now as they are about to brace one of the strongest storms and one of the most horrific storms that is coming their way. I hope all the people got out as safely as they can. I hope for the safety of your family in South Florida and for all the people in the area.
And Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic. Everybody down there has been impacted by Irma.
All right. And we got some good college football coming up this week.
The best game of the weekend is definitely Ohio State hosting Oklahoma.
Yep. So this was, I'm so happy to be back. I'm happy to be back with you and doing football.
Me too.
Well, from all of us at CTV, for Mr. Kenny Graham behind the desk, Jamie the Sportsman Hickson, the legend, I'm Eric Rosen. We'll see you here next Friday night on the 15th for another episode of the Blitz Zone here on CTV. Good night and peace and love, Staten Island.